Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Brendan Lombard Unscripted. I am here with Janet Steer for episode 2. Super excited for this chat. Janet has been an absolute weapon on the trails, and very, very keen to hear her take on her adventures. Janet, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, super excited for this. We have a lot to chat about. I'm going to kick it off straight away and just start by asking, who is Janet in a nutshell?
So, Janet is a mom to three boys, a wife, an accountant, but never fulfilled, and someone who runs but still doesn't view herself as a runner, but loves to be out in nature.
I think that's one of the key aspects of what we do, right? So, mom of three boys and a husband. That's a household of men. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. That must be quite interesting. Um,
Yes, I mean, well, I don't have a daughter, and I think I'm just so used to the male energy that sometimes, yeah, I think God gave me what I can handle. I'm very, very happy with my boys. And yeah, I think they're easier. So I've got a lot of wonderful women in my life, from nieces and their girls. So I'm happy with my boys.
Awesome. And tell me something, I mean, just briefly chatting with you in our conversations between coach and athlete, I know that sometimes it gets quite busy, you're off to life saving and doing things around the boys. How has it been juggling that with training for these big adventures?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to really plan when I train. But I still don't feel like I train excessively. That's the funny thing. Like people say, oh, it must consume you, but it doesn't really. I don't know whether, I mean, I'm often up early. I think that's the best time. So that, like, I battle a bit in winter because I don't have that light. But in summer it's pretty easy because I can go from sunrise. But winter it gets more difficult. So I definitely must try focus on training. Yeah, train in the summer. But otherwise, I'm generally up early. I also find you can easily slot in time. Like sometimes in the afternoon, or you can get really, really clever. Or if we're going somewhere, often my husband will just drop me off like halfway there, and I'll say I'll meet you there. So those things work.
So it's a proper team effort. That's
Yeah.
cool. Um, yeah, and I see that you also really enjoy your morning swims.
Yeah.
Um, has that or actually tell me about that. How does that serve you in a sense, whether it's from a recovery protocol or if it's more just something to refresh you or what
Yeah,
is
I
it?
mean, it actually started in I think about 2018. I just gave myself a challenge one day. I said, like, I live so near the beach, I'm not using it. And I said, I'm going to swim every day for 30 days. And it was actually my first time that I went onto Instagram. It was almost like a challenge to like not be afraid to put myself out there. And for 30 days, I posted this daily swim in the Atlantic, which felt huge at the time. And I've just never really stopped. And what happened is, I think about 2019, I started to meet people on Clifton Beach. I mean, I always used to go to Glen Beach, but we started to just recognize each other. And today we've got about a 15 strong group of women that we swim. There's always someone swimming every day. We, I mean, some have gone on to do Robben Island, but I'm just a bobber. But generally, I'm going down most days, and for me, it's just it's just it's enjoyment. It's not strenuous. I just don't put my head down. Just in for about 20 minutes, but I definitely think it helps with endurance. I mean, you become so accustomed to the cold. Yeah, it definitely helps with the running, I think. And also, especially after a run, it really is nice to have that cold, cold water on the muscles.
Absolutely. I mean, I can 100% agree with that. Although myself, I'm petrified of the cold. Those that know me know that myself and cold are like water and electricity. We don't go too well together. Um, right, Janet, let's get into the running side of things, and I want to go back a bit. I want to go back to the Gobi, and I think a lot of people don't actually know that you've done the Gobi, and I'd like to chat about that because I think we can then look at comparisons between the Gobi and something like Marathon des Sables. So first of all, training for the Gobi, what did that look like for you then?
Yes, because that was before Brendan, and I was actually thinking about that today. So I just took a generic. I think it really, what inspired me to do it is my dad passed away in 2022, and towards the end of the year, November. And I remember in December, I just thought I have to do something next year in his honor, or just to really seize, yeah, just to really, I just felt a need to really do something meaningful for him and for me. And I just stumbled across this Gobi. I think it was on a podcast that I heard about it. And then I thought, how am I going to do this? So I found a very generic, because I started running in about January, and I think that was in June. I just found a generic program and I just started following it. And that's how I got to, and I went with that program. But there was no strength, nothing. It was just running and trying to build up some weights on my back. Yeah.
Okay, and for those that don't know, can you just quickly give us a rundown of what the Gobi is?
Yes, it's also it's another stage. It's a stage event, a multi-day stage event. Again, you're self-sufficient, and this one was done obviously in the Gobi Desert, and it was 250 kilometers, and the longest stage on that one was 80 kilometers. And at that stage, I'd never ever run, I think, over a marathon. I don't even, yeah, I just, yeah. So 80 was huge. Yeah, and I went, I had no gaiters. I think now looking back, I was pretty unprepared.
Okay, so kind of went from marathon straight into these long multi-day events. And I just want to touch on something that you said you wanted to do something meaningful. And I think that kind of goes into my next question as well. But in terms of us finding meaning in doing these long endurance events, is that what kind of was a draw card to it, of say that exploratory process of finding something authentic and real, or what was it for you at that stage?
I think at that stage, specifically for that race, I wanted to travel. I just felt like my dad maybe could have traveled a bit more. So I wanted to go abroad, but I wanted to do something that was active and I wanted to do something that was challenging. Yes, but my why might have shifted slightly, but it was just to do something that was like I just thought was totally unachievable. Yeah, it was really, I thought there's no way. I mean, I was so nervous going to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a big step from a marathon. And
And it wasn't
I think,
regular marathons. I mean, I don't even know when I'd done a marathon. I can't even remember before that.
wow. So, I mean, that's testament, I think, to your character, and fittingly, for those that don't know, I gave Janet a nickname, and we call Janet the Juggernaut Steer because she's just so strong and mentally equipped for these hard things and these long endurance events. And also, just to touch on this, for those that don't know Janet as well, Janet is a tiny lady, but so powerful. I don't know where that strength comes from, but I mean it's incredibly admirable. Now, okay, so we've touched on the Gobi.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ultra Trail Cape Town and ticking off those events and what those were like for you because they're inherently quite different to the terrain you experience in the desert, things like that. So let's talk about your first time at Ultra Trail Cape Town and what that meant for you.
So I think when I got back from the Gobi, which was in 2023, and then I think I was just so surprised that I had managed to do that Gobi. And I thought, maybe I can do these things. And I think about a year earlier, I had seen some people running in the dark up on Cliff Neck, or I don't know. I just remember thinking, I want to do that one day. And then when I got back from the Gobi, I suddenly I didn't even know what UTCT was, but suddenly I started to, oh, that's what it is. And I think that's at the time I thought, oh, maybe I can run the 100 kilometer. And then I thought, well, maybe I need a little bit of help. So I think it was in 2023 that I started working with you. I just thought, maybe, yeah, just need some guidance here, but that's what I want to do in November. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's how
and
that started. Yeah.
yeah, and I remember you did swimmingly well, and I think there must have been quite a difference between the way you trained for, say, marathon, not marathon, the
Gobi.
Gobi,
Yeah.
versus what we did in terms of a structured manner. What was that shift like for you, in terms of moving from sort of a generic plan to following more structure?
Yes. So remember, the thing with the generic plan, the only different thing was that obviously I needed to eventually get about 8 to 10 kilos on my back. So that's different because I was never really freely running. But when I started with you, I realized, well, I learned about elevation and vert and all sorts of things that I just didn't even know. Um, I realized that one can train in various ways. I think I was really, really ignorant. And if I look back on the Gobi, I mean, there was some elevation, but it was nothing like the mountains here. I mean, so yeah, that started working a whole lot of new muscles. And yeah, that was just a whole new world to me.
Yeah, it's crazy how when we prep for these events, how well, look, all events are so different, and
Mm.
you can't necessarily apply the same plan race to race because of how different the trails are all the time.
Yeah.
Um, I always say even the same trail is never the same day after day,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's pretty incredible, I think, about our sport. But applying structure for an event is most certainly the best way to prep for something, but not only just the training side of things. I think, having someone in your corner holding you accountable, number one, as well, but also, getting to know you as a person and not just an athlete, right?
Yeah.
I think I've gotten to know you quite well over the
Yes.
past couple of years. And I also know what makes you tick and what you don't like. And yeah, it's important to have that relationship between coach and athlete
Yes.
so you can establish the best plan, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And
and Ultra Trail Cape Town itself for you, that race, how was it from an experience aspect?
yeah, I mean, I think I didn't quite know what I was getting myself in for, but I think I sometimes thrive on ignorance is bliss. I mean, although you had briefed me, I don't think you know what you're getting yourself into until you've done something. You can envisage but I just remember, I mean, obviously the first 42 Ks going up Platter Clip and then coming down, I remember Llandudno Ravine. Yeah, I mean, it was very exciting. I mean, I just like thought when I got to Llandudno, oh yeah, I can carry on, because a lot of people were quite finished by then. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I really had to tap into my mind then, but oh, it was exhilarating. If that's the right word, I loved it.
It's a good way to put it. And we all know that Ultra Trail Cape Town, the 100K specifically, the crux of the race is really once you hit Llandudno, go up Souther Peak,
Yeah.
which is adequately nicknamed Suffer Peak.
Yes.
Um, yeah, a lot of the field tends to drop out, and a lot of the time, the 100K actually has about a 50% dropout rate, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So I think once you know you passed Souther Peak, you
Yes.
can finish,
Yes.
right?
I mean, I definitely battled towards the end. I just felt like, it just went on and on and on after Newlands. But I think that was just because I just didn't know. And I mean, yeah, even though you'd prepped me well, I still my headlight ran out. I was still pretty new, but you got to learn these things yourself. You know, someone can tell you need a headlight, but until you know which headlight you've got and how long that one lasts for. Yeah, I've learned a lot. Mm.
100%. I always say these big ultras are just big problem-solving equations
Yeah,
because you 100% gonna encounter problems,
yeah,
no matter if you're an
mm,
elite right at the front or if you're running
yeah,
to finish, there is going to be problems.
yeah.
And I guess that's a great metaphor for life, really, if
Mm.
I can put it that way, in the way I view things. I mean, the reason I run ultras is literally to prove to myself that I've still got some grit, and that, if as tough as life can get, if I can do this, I can get through life, right?
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so Ultra Trail Cape Town, you did that, incredible. And we went on to even crazier events, which we'll get stuck into now. But I must ask, and I know we touched on having meaning for Gobi, but if you could sum up your why, as in why you do this crazy sport of ours, in a couple words, what would you say?
I've been thinking a lot about it this last week. I think it's that finish line feeling. To me, it's almost like a drug. And I find, and that finish line feeling is accessible to everyone. It doesn't, you don't have to be first. You don't have to be the fastest or the strongest, because it's all relative. And I think it's just that feeling of committing to something. It's the training. It's like this journey towards it, and it's almost like, I don't know, that feeling is, to me, unbelievable when I eventually do cross these finish lines. So it, if that's a why, I'm not sure, but it really just, I love it that it's not reserved for the best. I mean, I just feel I'm a very average person, but that feeling, and someone can get it from doing 10 kilometers. And I think that's the message. You don't have to be as good and as fast and do as long or as short as anyone else. You can also have that feeling, and I love that feeling.
Absolutely, it's most definitely relative. And I mean, we even see in the sport, doing 100-mile events or things like Marathon des Sables, and then you got guys who are running 5Ks on the track in 13 minutes, which is
Yeah,
also
yeah,
absolutely incredible.
yes,
So it is all relative. Yeah, I just think no matter what distance or medium of athletics you do, you most certainly
yeah,
can find fulfillment, um,
yeah,
in movement, really. I
yes.
mean, your boys must be so proud. I mean, to have a role model, and someone like you who, for lack of a better word, say, creates such a great example of someone that is willing to take on hard things and see it through. Um, what is their view on all of this?
It's like, they often joke and like, but I know deep down they are very proud of me. I really, they are. And I think maybe they get cross with me sometimes because I'm like a bit unreasonable. It's like, I mean, they're not super athletes at all, but as I said, you don't have to be. I think I have instilled in them, they've definitely got stamina. And yeah, we don't sweat the small stuff. It's just like get on with it. And yeah, when I do these things, they are proud. I mean, when I got back from Gobi, I remember driving into the garage and there was the sign, "You raced the planet well." They are definitely proud of me, and yeah, it's good. I mean, they know I'm not fast or anything, but I think, yeah, no, they're proud of me. Yeah,
Yeah, that's incredible. And look, I follow you on Instagram and I see the stories. So it's almost a little bit tangible. You can see that they are super stoked with mom. And I like to also ask athletes and people I talk to from, doing when we do these big events, there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of training, a lot of time spent out in the mountain, away from home sometimes, and we have to juggle relationships while doing the sport. In terms of, being married and things like that with husband and wife, etc. Um, what is that dynamic like for you?
So often I'll say to my husband, come join me, let's go. I've got to run 20 Ks. Oh, you just think everyone can just run what you run. So often, like, I always run with my phone. I mean, like some people say, oh, security here, but for me, that's the way he tracks me. And if someone wants to take my phone, they can gladly have it. So often I find I'll sort of tell my husband what I'm vaguely going to do. Like I might say, okay, today I'm going to do 2 loops. And then often I'll get like past 1 loop and there he'll be waiting with Sumi the dog. So often he joins in, doesn't do the full amount, depending on what day I'm running, what distance I'm running. But yeah, often he does join me, but for half of what I'm doing. And but also he's happy, if at least if I'm running, then he can go watch the kids play sports, and it's yeah, it's not really a major issue. It just seems to have organically worked quite well. Yeah,
No, that's awesome. And I think when we spend so much time in the mountains and we do have our partners join us. Look, I'm lucky; my wife
yeah,
runs pretty much as I do. There's also a bit of you're showing someone else your world a little bit, and there's almost like a bonding or connection
yeah,
that happens when you
yes.
do that. Yeah,
It's
so
also, sorry,
that's
because I just like at the end of the year, I think my husband and my one son are they going to do it's the 35, the UT. So I said to him, I promise this year I will not be taking part. I'm gonna, if I do something, I'll volunteer, but I will be there to support them. So it's almost like I'm gonna give back a bit this year. They're very excited for that.
No, that's really cool, and
Yeah,
it's the same in our family. My sister runs, my brother-in-law, my mom as well. My mom's done a fair bit of, well, she's got a permanent Two Oceans Ultra number.
right.
She's done
Yeah.
comrades a good couple times, and it's important. We always have family there supporting us and seeing us
Mm.
going through these insane adventures, and they also see at us on they also see us at our most vulnerable
Yeah.
and our most sort of raw. Um, and I think we almost inspire them to want to do something like that. And then when we can give back by
Yeah.
supporting them, I think it just goes so far.
Yes.
Um, which is super important, I think.
Yeah.
Um, Janet, I want to get into Marathon des Sables. You've recently completed this iconic race in its Centurion year, if I believe, or sorry, 40th.
40th. Their 40th year. Yeah.
I'm thinking 100-kilometer stage.
Yeah.
So it was the 40th year of Marathon des Sables. For those that don't know, again, this year it was longer. It was 200. It was over 250 kilometers.
270. Yeah.
So it was a little bit longer this year. But I want to talk about Marathon des Sables and particularly your experience of the event. And I'd like to start off by asking, what was it like arriving in Morocco? I don't know if you've been there before, but, a new place, a new experience on the horizon. What was it like arriving there and seeing all the runners and the
Yeah. I mean, it almost felt like a movie. Once we had like traveled, because there was 2 bus trips to get there from Marrakesh. First you had to go to Ouarzazate, which is a little town, and then you had to go further, like depending on what bus you were on, it would be another 6 to 8 hours over these Atlas Mountains. And then suddenly you just arrive in no man's land, and there's this like reception for you, just like a red carpet laid out, people cheering and camels. When I think back now, it was absolutely surreal. And the funny thing is, we all had cases at that stage because you had one night to decide what you needed, and yeah, I mean, I don't know how they managed to pull it off, but it was unbelievable. Yeah,
and the hospitality of the people and experiencing the culture.
incredible. I mean, I think the fact that one is self-sufficient in these races, if that wasn't the case, I think they would do so much more. I think like the locals and the would like to do more, but the nature of the race, I'm just saying they can't really interact with all the competitors to a level that they would like. But I mean, the support was unbelievable. And on the 100K stage, there was some local vegetable soup. Oh, it was to die for. I mean, so that was one treat we got. But just everyone in the way, because the bivouac. I mean, those tents with the wind, and obviously there were so many locals employed, but like just so willing and so helpful. I mean, it was a monumentous affair to just keep everything going. And, I think it was all just happening behind the scenes. Hmm.
Yes, I suppose it is quite a look. It is an iconic race, and I think probably the big call it parties of the calendar over there. Let's You mentioned vegetable soup, and I
Sorry,
know
mentioned?
vegetable soup.
Yes.
Um, And I want to before we carry on chatting about Marathon des Sables, I want to dive into your nutrition. I always see on Instagram you doing these lovely meals and cooking. What is your preference and what is your, call it, nutritional philosophy when it comes to the sport?
Yes. So I think maybe I'm just very, very ignorant and stupid. I sometimes think, because, I've just never been one to follow a strict nutrition plan. So, and as much as you and many people, I mean, it's just everywhere. It's not, although I must say, what I love about you is you never push me because you know my sort of philosophy, I mean, obviously you've told me, but first of all, I just don't like gels. Um, I think in all my races, I'm not lying, of all the things I've probably had, maybe managed to finish 3 full gels in all the races I've done. So I generally, with Marathon des Sables, it was so difficult because you can't take food. I've got to I had to get 2,000 calories a day. So I had to rely on some bars and endurance fuels. I just used Tailwind. Well, I use Tailwind because I know it agrees with me and also quite like NARC. But still, I don't have a plan. And in some ways, you hear of everyone bombing out because their nutrition and their gut. I've never had a problem with my gut and my nutrition. I think the only thing is I might be underfueled. Yeah. I think sometimes maybe I do need more energy. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I'm underfueled. But I like to eat as much as I can, eat real food as much as I can. I mean, I saw my nephew sometimes runs in Hong Kong, and they give soups and broths at the stations. And like, to me, broth and noodles, that is really, if I had a choice to be served something, it would be that. You can just slip it down. And I just think, yeah, there's too much. I don't like all this carbs and things, but I'm just a novice.
You know what? Nutrition when it comes to these ultra events is a very personal thing.
Yeah,
What works for me is not necessarily going to work for you, and vice versa. There is no sort of golden rule or
mm,
golden label as to how we have to do things. And I know there's a lot of push towards this high carb
yeah,
um, thought system at the moment. And I mean, there's even been studies that, for the most part, when I say the most part, I'd say most of the athletes competing don't really need to be pushing that or that amount of carbs. Even now, like I'm now talking in terms of, 90, 100 grams plus per
yeah,
hour. Really not necessary. Look, maybe if you're competing towards the sharper end of the field and your intensity is a
yes,
bit higher for longer, sure, there's a lot of nuance. But touching quickly on the soup,
yeah,
I'm the first to admit, and my wife will laugh when she hears this. My first attempt at CCC in Chamonix was horrendous. I completely underestimated what I was in for. But funny enough, the only thing that got me to the finish when running at night was chicken noodle soup at the aid
yeah,
station. It was an absolute lifesaver,
yes, yeah,
and I've now sworn by it ever since. If there's an
yeah,
opportunity to have it, I'm going to have it.
yes,
And I tell my athletes the same because it's got the sodium in it. You're getting a little bit of a
absolutely.
carbs. Yeah.
And you don't, you can't, I find it's difficult to chew if your mouth is dry. Just those noodles can just slide down, and the broth. I mean, even on the Marathon des Sables, now we had to take 14 bouillon cubes. You know those stock cubes that like maybe one. Remember, my mom used to put them in the soup. Like you had to have two a day. I mean, I took my own thing because I don't really. I'm sort of vegetarian, but like that broth because people, yeah, people were. I remember in the Gobi, the medical people were handing out these little bouillon cubes, and now it was just funny that that was something that was compulsory on this race. Mm.
Yeah, keep it simple, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, even the way I race now, I just pretty much do carbs, sodium, and water. And
But I mean,
where I
I'm a slow runner. I'm not like, I'm just saying, I'm not comparing myself to the runners that are hitting record times and needing to fuel. I'm just a slow, it's almost like I'm just doing a day journey adventure. So I can eat, I don't need all that
well, look, I
fuel.
mean, there's actually quite a, well, I say it's a video that went viral of this Chinese runner, front runner, and he was literally running with a bowl of noodles and chopsticks, actually, feeding himself
Yeah,
while he was running. And I think he ended up to be like in the top part of the race, which was incredible.
yeah,
And I think that's, test. Look, at the end of the day, we all need fuel. Where it comes from is a personal thing, and what works for you, if it
yeah.
works, just keep doing it. Um, right. So let's bounce back to Marathon des Sables. I particularly want to talk about that 100K stage, and then I've got some other questions for you after that. But the 100K stage, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was a once-off edition or a new edition because of the anniversary year?
Yes, so it was a once off because I've already seen it was the longest stage they've ever had at Marathon des Sables. And usually they have it varies slightly, but I think it's usually 80 kilometers and the total is 250. But I don't know because it was maybe the 40th, they just decided, yeah, it's the only time ever that they've done 100 kilometers. Yeah.
And now I want to ask, what was your mindset for that? Because obviously you've done some stages prior to the 100K stage. You know that the next day after the 100K stage, you got a marathon, if I remember correctly. Um, what was your mindset going into that 100?
Yeah, I mean, and earlier when you were talking about UTCT, I was specifically just referring to my first UTCT that I did with you, the 100K. I mean, I did do then the miler and the other one, but so I was just referring to that first race. But what I knew I'd done 100Ks before, so yeah, that was I was confident in that sense, but I'd never done yeah, I mean like the next day after the 100K we did another marathon, and I've never done 100K with like 20% of my body weight on my back. But there's something about I'm just going to say MDS now. They want everyone to finish, and I mean the cut-off times were very, very lenient, unless although fortunately I was like, I mean, I think my 100K, it's the first time I've done 100 kilometers under 20 hours. There was a 40-hour cutoff. But I think what I really realized in this race was the running was one thing, but the conditions was another challenge. I've never been so uncomfortable in my life. It was almost like a distraction, so it's like, when you run a race and the night before you've got everything laid out, your numbers on the bed, pinned to your shirt, you've got your little gels, each packet or whatever, everything's so perfect. I think I learned that I just relinquished all control. I mean, I was waking up with no sleep. My bag was a mess, sand. And I realized we actually don't need much. I just need to put one foot in front of the other. I've never been so disorganized in my life, but it was liberating. It was like, I was so, unprepared, but I don't know, there was something about it. It just, everyone was doing it, and I don't know, my body felt quite good. I don't know, I don't know what happened. Yeah.
It's almost like a live and let live feeling, I
Yeah.
guess. Which, like you said, is liberating. I feel like sometimes we do complicate things too much in
Yeah.
all facets of life, sport, everything.
Yeah.
And I chatted to Beata as well about this, but
Yeah.
I think absolute beauty in simplicity, and
Yes. It's like,
just doing it.
it's almost like you think if everything's not perfect the night before, or you don't wake up in a crisp bed, go to bed at 9 a.m., 9 p.m., wake up well slept, well rested, and everything's there. It was so not like that. And but it was okay. I think I just had a like, you just switch, you just say, all I want is that there's no sand in my eyes, and then I'll be okay. That was like my main aim, is like just the wind and the sand. As long as I could see, I was okay.
I think we adapt as well.
Yeah, you
When
definitely do. Mm.
yeah, we got to do some. Look, I think I remember you were sending the
Yeah.
little videos between stages, and I remember in every single video there was the one word, and it was uncomfortable.
Yes.
Look, I remember you saying that, and I was like, I can only imagine what it must feel like. You're feeling sticky. You've got the same
Yeah.
clothes on for the whole week. The sand's probably sticking to you as
Oh,
well. I can only imagine. Look, but I think like 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 we said, right? We adapt, and
yeah.
you think, okay, I just got to get on with this,
Yes.
which is pretty cool. Now, talk to me about particularly the tents, and just to give people an idea, there were no mattresses, there were no
No.
fancy linen. You were sleeping on what looked like to me a carpet, if I'm correct.
Yes, so every tent had a carpet laid out on the bottom, but I mean, I was in tent 47, which was actually right on the edge, and the wind was coming that direction. I think our tent, we weren't in the middle, we were right on the edge, and on the side. That carpet was just like a bed of sand. I remember when I got in at about like 1 o'clock after the 100K, it was just sand. There was no carpet, nothing. I mean, you couldn't even see the carpet. But some of the nights were slightly softer. There was one lady in our tent, she didn't bring a mat. I mean, she decided she didn't need one. But on the third, unfortunately, she withdrew, and so she never got to. But like the third and fourth night, we were really on like cobbled. Yeah, the ground was hard. I had a blow up mattress. A lot of people had those little cuts off, they're like sponge. I don't know what you call them. Might look into that next time. My mattress was good, but it was very slippery and noisy. Yeah, but it was light. But I
So
think you need a mattress. I carried one. I don't know how people would forego that for the weight benefit. I don't know.
yeah, so sleep is everything, especially for recovery interstage as
Yeah.
well.
But the
So
tents aren't tents. The tents are just really coverings. They're open on the sides, and yeah, it's not a tent.
so I heard you say something, and I picked up on that just in a couple sentences before. You said next time. So what what is that telling us? Is there potential, or have you thought of some big adventure yet again? Or
No, there's nothing. I mean, I don't think I would ever do MDS again. And I mean that, I'm not just saying that, but I do love I love a multi-stage event. But the funny thing is, I thought I had everything sorted or like I knew what I needed after Gobi. But what I realized, what worked at the Gobi didn't work in the Sahara. And I didn't really enjoy my food so much in the Sahara. I don't know. It just, yeah, yeah, there's things. It's funny how, yeah, you've got to keep, it's a moving target. So I think next time, when I say next time, maybe I'd change my mattress. Yeah, if I did have to take a mattress along. Mm.
well, look, if I know you well enough, maybe not right now, but in a couple months or whatever, you're going to come and say, you know what, I found this race, something insane like the four deserts in the Arctic or something like that. And I'm going to say, okay, Janet, let's go for it. So one thing I've learned with you is that nothing is off the table. There's always something that might pop up that sort of tickles your curiosity
Yeah.
and you want to go give it a bash. Right, and then just chatting about Marathon des Sables again and fellow competitors. I know obviously Beata was there as well, and you two managed to connect. Ryan
Yes.
Sands was also
Yes.
at MDS. What was it like bumping into them, having sort of, did it feel like a piece of home in a way, or like that you
Yes.
knew
So
someone?
the funny thing is, I never really saw Ryan in the camp. And I wanted to, but you also don't want to go and harass, look, they need, yeah. So I wasn't exactly going to go and stalk him. I was hoping to bump into, but on the 100K stage, he did run past, and I remember him saying, "Go South Africa, go South Africa." So just, yeah, he just always, yeah, amazing. But I did meet a guy. Just one day, I happened to be running, and when you sort of you're running with someone, and I didn't really chat to him, but at the end of the day, he actually came and he found where my tent was, and he was actually fluent in Arabic and English, and he was actually in the tent with the Moroccan leaders. So he said, "No, come on over to that tent." So I did actually meet the brothers and in their tent. I mean, although they don't speak English, but it was fascinating just to see. There's no privileges. They're enduring exactly what we're enduring. And although what I did learn from them is they don't seem to they didn't need the blister tent. They've got their own method with string. I couldn't quite figure it out, but they do a different blister treatment and their feet looked like perfect. And I did ask if there was kids in their family that were being trained up, but no, I think the lead guy said no, he's got two daughters, but they're not going to be running. So no, it was really nice to just see and chat to them.
The string thing could be called like a
I
desert
don't know.
manicure, a desert pedicure, sorry, or
Yeah,
something
I
like
must
that.
actually Google it. I've been meaning to. They just some technique. If there's a blister, they treat it with a piece of string. I stand to be corrected.
Look, I think that there's a lot of call them old wives' tales in running. Like my grandmother used to also have some crazy methods of avoiding certain things. She was also a Springbok athlete and things like that. And it's crazy how the sport's evolved. I mean, I remember Two Oceans Comrades, the main source of fuel, for example, was just corn syrup.
Yeah,
Um, that's the way people fueled. Now we've got all these special concoctions, etc., etc. Anyway, so you're now done the 100K. You've gone on to do the marathon. It's almost time to finish. The final day of Marathon des Sables. I mean, you can finish. You've just
yeah,
run upwards of 230, 40 odd, sorry, more than that, 250 odd Ks.
yeah.
The last stage is 20, if I'm correct.
Yes, it was I think it was, yeah, it was about a half marathon. Yeah, yeah.
So now you're there, you've just got the 20 Ks left. What goes through your mind knowing that the finish is just around the corner?
What I didn't like is like, you can do it, but then sometimes I was thinking, Janet, try and keep your pace. I hate that. Why did I think that? Just I could have finished, I could have done that in 5 hours that day or whatever, but I somehow wanted to maintain my position. I don't know why or whatever. I'm not a competitive person, so I didn't like that hanging over me because I just felt like relaxing but I think I did try this time. I really tried to just keep a steady pace because I've got a tendency to default to a walk very easily. Often just, I don't know. Sometimes I don't even realize I'm doing it and I just start walking. But that day, I mean, I think the winners finished in no wind. We had a sandstorm of notes. I mean, but it almost made the finish just so much more emotional. It just, yeah, it was an extreme finish. It was howling. I mean, I could barely stand up again. But I mean, I've had some experience in wind. But I think when I crossed that finish line, it's like you don't expect it, but just it's almost like you don't know why, but all these emotions, the tears, it's all, I don't, it's like I never envisaged that feeling, but it's like the minute you cross that feeling, like that finish line, everything just sort of changes. I don't know, maybe because I don't think about it, but it was just, yeah, it was quite unbelievable. It was like this relief, but I hadn't really anticipated it. Mm.
I suppose, and also just trying to take in of what you've actually just accomplished. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a very small percentage of people on this planet that have done something as incredible as the Marathon des Sables. And did it take you time to process it, sort of coming home and sitting with it?
Yes, definitely. It's like almost that feeling of relief and elation when you cross the finish line. You don't know why you're feeling it. It's like almost like your body just immediately, well, for me personally, it's like suddenly my body just feels different when I cross that finish line. But I don't know why. It's like I haven't quite processed it. So then it's almost like sort of like trying to put the bits together. Why did I start crying or why? And then you start understanding, that's, yeah. I think because for so long, you've just been looking at the finish line and suddenly you're over the finish line. And it's, yeah, your body knows. I don't know. It's just the weirdest thing. Yeah.
And in terms of the journey itself, and when I say journey, I don't just mean, the stages of Marathon des Sables. Let's call the journey the training, sort of getting the gear together, figuring
Yeah.
out what's going to work for you. What was that like for you? Was it sort of a completely new thing, or was it something that you enjoyed? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Um, I find it quite stressful because it's almost like the more time you have, sometimes is not good for me because so I'm better like because if I've got 3 months, it'll take me 3 months. If I've got one week, it'll take me a week. But I find, I mean, one thing I did do is I didn't join any groups, and because I heard from some of my tent mates, they were on some groups, and it was like, you know, I'm cutting my toothbrush off to save 3 grams, and I'm doing this. I mean, that would have stressed me out beyond. I think I think I knew I'd done a stage event before, so that gave me some confidence. But it gets quite drawn out and intense. You sort of like looking, like you just want to start so that yeah. I needed that freedom. You feel like a bit boxed in when you're prepping for something like this. Yeah, because you never can do enough.
No, I remember in our prep specifically before you got your bag delivered,
Yes,
you were training with, I think it was an Ultimate Direction pack.
yes.
And did you put what did you put in it? Was it dumbbells
Yes,
or
dumbbells which were not great because I did get a hip. I think the one time I'd run too long that day and yeah, the weight had been pressing on my side. Yeah, so I mean, I was just late. I was just putting dumbbells in, and yeah, someone said to me, "Was it you, or to put a 5 liter water in?"
yeah,
But I didn't
fill
do
your
that.
bladder with water
Yeah.
or something with sand in it. So for all the gym bros out there listening, you're not lifting hard enough unless you're running with an Ultimate Direction pack and some dumbbells in it on a mountain, right? Um, Look, I mean, we have to improvise when training for events like this.
Mm.
And I know when your pack did arrive, obviously things were a lot better. And we
Yeah.
did things like 3-day back-to-back long runs.
Yes.
To,
Because yeah. I mean, I remember. It's funny because Brendan, I love the way you work, and you know me, and I don't know, one weekend I did what you said, but I think I just did too much, maybe climbing or something, because I hadn't quite listened. And then it's the first time you said to me, Janet, you need to cover some distance next weekend. You need to like, it's the first time. And I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? I'm not going to be climbing Platte in the Sahara, you know? And, but it was exactly what I needed. And I remember I did 2 days. I think I did about 27 or 56 in total. But yeah, you were 100% right. I needed distance, like flatter distance. Yeah. So, but it's the first time you've said to me very leniently, but like, no, you need to do distance.
Yeah, I actually remember that
Yeah.
quite vividly. And look, for me as a coach, it was incredibly fun, incredibly explorative in coaching, yourself and Beata for the
Yeah.
marathon Dressage. Um, it's look, I've coached athletes for all kinds of races all over the globe, but the stage racing is very unique in its own nature. You can't necessarily apply the same sort of methodologies that we use for UTCT 100K, for example, or even running on the mountains for an event like Marathon des Sables. It requires a completely different approach. And I can just say from my side as coach, thank you for trusting me and thank you for
Mm.
being diligent. You tick the boxes and it all paid off. I mean, you're now part of a very exclusive, I would say, small group of people that have done the Marathon des Sables.
But I mean, if I have to thank you in one way, I mean, at the end of the Gobi, my feet were a mess. I remember I went to Japan for a few days afterwards. I couldn't walk. I could barely walk. And that was to me just so huge. Like I never, my body didn't feel broken at all in MDS. And afterwards I went to London, my shoes, my feet were like a blessing. They were fine. And my body, I was walking like for about 8 hours a day in London. My body felt fine. I'm not saying it wasn't fatigue, but there was no, so you did something right because yeah, that was, I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, so I really felt good. So, and I think you didn't overtrain us. I don't know, maybe that's the secret.
Yeah, look, I think for many years the emphasis was always on volume, volume, volume
Yeah,
to run these ultras, but sometimes less is more. And
yeah,
particularly, and also, and what I've said before on various occasions is that our bodies as humans only understand stress. It doesn't know how many kilometers you run. It
yeah,
doesn't know how many, hours you've spent only running. And stress is accumulative in nature from life stresses to your training stresses to emotional stress, all of
yeah,
that, all of that. And it all adds up, right? And you got to kind of try find that balance. So if we were to perhaps push a hell of a lot of volume, and you did become fatigued, and let's say you had the stress of prepping for Marathon des Sables from a logistical perspective, along with potential life stresses, we would have just been emptying your cup.
yeah,
And you would have gone to an event like Marathon des Sables tired. Um, and you're right, we didn't necessarily do insane volume, but we did enough volume
yeah,
with the perfect dose of quality. And what we call it in the sports science realm is the minimum dose to give us the highest or most best effect, right?
yeah.
And that's what
Okay.
we really have to try and nail. Janet, I have to ask the question, and I know you perhaps haven't decided yet from our previous chats, but what are you thinking about doing next? Is there even a thought of something to do next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm running in on Saturday, like the trail, but it's almost like I just feel like going, that's just a fun thing. I couldn't care if I walk because as you know, I've been battling now since I just don't feel very I don't feel like being disciplined at the moment. I think I just don't feel like, yeah, sticking to anything. But I've won a place for the Sky Run. So that is in November, which I know is going to be a really different challenge. Um, but yeah, so that is quite big, but there's nothing at the moment. Brendan, you know me. It's like often something can just past my eyes, and then it's like I'm doing that in 4 months. I found like a lot of the people at MDS, and I mean, maybe I'm privileged, and I don't mean to say it, but like, how many years have you been planning to do this? I'm generally a person that is like, I see something and then I do it. I don't sit on anything for years. I'm quite quick to yeah. So I
I
don't
think
know.
that
Anything could come up.
I think it must be a Taurus thing,
Yeah,
as you said before. I'm also very much like that. If I see something that again sparks my curiosity, I'm gonna go do it.
yeah.
So I think it's a great character trait to have, but it can also be a very impulsive character trait. And sometimes we do leave it to the last minute. But one thing I can promise you as being your coach, etc., we would always do it safely and
Yeah.
effectively within whatever timelines we were given. So
I want to do
Skyrun isn't
something
a
in Japan. I want to go to Japan or Asia. So if that would really, I'd love to do that one day.
and at least they'll have your broth at the aid
Yeah.
stations when you're
Yes,
at
maybe that's why.
yeah, exactly. Maybe they'll even have some various
Sushi.
kinds. Yeah, sushi.
Yeah.
And Asia sounds great. And I've lived
Yeah.
in Asia before. Spent 2 years in Thailand. Incredible culture, incredible place, incredible people. I would actually also love to do a race there. I haven't raced there yet. Quick question, just surrounding something like UTMB, and call it the Super Bowl event of the trail running calendar. Is that something that you're curious about, or is it something that um, you want to tackle?
UTMB. Yeah, but the thing is to get in. I mean, I had a chance this year from the milers. I had some, no, wait, sorry, I got my stones from Matt. Yes,
Mhm.
but now, yeah, I don't know how long those stones will last or if I'm in the draw. So, yeah, I've got to keep finding some qualifying events. Of course, yeah. And I know I once said there was the petty trot. I know, but I feel like almost embarrassed saying that because it's like, how could she even think of that? But that's to me, yeah, is incredible. But
PTL.
yeah, but I think I'm bat crazy. Yeah, that even to think that I could even, yeah. So let's just leave that there. Well, I don't know. Yeah.
To be honest, I
Mm.
mean, if there's someone who I can totally believe in doing something like that, it would be you. And the PTL, yes, an insane event, part of the UTMB week calendar with proper technical via
Yeah.
ferrata style climbing, um, and we have people in South Africa who have done it and done it quite successfully.
Yeah.
So if that were to ever come up, we could definitely chat to some people to
Okay.
make
Maybe
sure
you're
that.
igniting that, but oh, that one gives me
Um,
real imposter syndrome. But yeah, I'll have to look into that. But oh, that would be incredible.
Yeah, it's a very, again, just like Marathon Disciple, it's incredibly unique because of the
Mm.
gear that you need to run.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a race last year in France called the Pierre Menta, which was a sky run in Ardèche in Beaufort. And it was the first race I'd ever done where I had to wear a harness and a helmet.
Yeah.
And we had to scale sheer drop cliffs that were, incredibly scary. And again, you talk about imposter syndrome. I 100% had that, like lining up on that start line. But I'm so thankful I did it because
Yeah.
that, and I don't even call it a race, that adventure will sit in my memory banks,
Yeah.
forever because it was absolutely unreal. I mean, we scaled mountaintops and saw Mont Blanc in the distance from where we
Yeah.
were. It was just something out of this world. I would absolutely do it again, and this time not shake so much on certain
Well, good
traverses.
for you. Well done.
Yeah, it was crazy, and just as crazy as the Via Ferrata we did in
Yeah.
Switzerland. For those who don't know what a Via Ferrata is, it's sort of a I'm not going to say mountaineering. It's not mountaineering. It's you are strapped in with carabiners and helmets, but the drops are sheer. They can be up to 1,000 meters below you, and it's just you got to. I would say not be afraid of heights, although I am, but you got to really be in control of what you are doing because you can panic at certain points. So, Janet, PTL, if it ever does come across your mind again and you want to talk about it, I'm absolutely here to
Thank
chat
you.
and see what happens.
That's one thing
But yeah,
about you.
I think
You always, you never ever have said to me, yeah, you always just, of course you can do that.
look, I think obviously, I'll always be honest. If I
Yeah,
didn't think something was a good idea from a longevity point of view or from a health point of view, I would say,
yeah,
look, we need to rethink. But I also believe in pushing people a little bit out of their boxes and their safe zone because ultimately, if you go out there and do this and prove to yourself that you can do these things, it's just going to ignite or rather open up another area of your life and mind that
yeah,
previously didn't exist and it wasn't there. And by doing that, you're just going to live a more full
yeah,
life, more adventurous life. And that's the reason why I do the sport. I do the sport. Yes, the finish line is great. And I like you, I feel amazing when I get there. But I think what I learn from doing these events and from the sport itself, but also what I learn about myself doing this is really the cherry on top. Uh, and I must say again, well done. We're all super proud of you.
thank you.
It's been an absolute epic experience as a coach to go through this with you. I know that right now you're taking a bit of downtime, not following any structure, just want to run when you feel like it and have adventures
Yeah,
when you feel like which I must say is important, and I'm glad you're doing it because we do need these periods of downtime, call it that, just short periods during the year where you don't have to chase a number or
mm,
have to do speed on a Tuesday or have to do your 3 climbs on a Saturday or whatever it is. So yeah, kudos to you for acknowledging that you just need a short break from
yeah.
everything. And I'm certainly looking forward to the WhatsApp message I get that says, Brendan, I have an idea.
Okay. Thank you, Brendan.
Yeah, it's exciting. And thank you very much for coming on. Lastly, and then I'm going to let you go. If you have a message for the broader world or trail running community or anyone really, what is that?
Just going back, I said something about that finish line feeling. But when I say that it's available to anyone, it's not that finish line feel. You only get that finish line feeling through the journey. I'm just saying it's the preparation. It's the being brave enough to start something. It's being strong enough to just keep on going, and like when you want to just pull out, and that's what leads to that finish line feeling. It's not even about crossing that finish line, but it's just a reward. We've got to put ourselves out there. You've got to try things, and I don't know, it's just for me, I mean, I've only really been doing these things since 2023, and it's just been unbelievable. The places I've seen, the people I've met, what I've learned about myself. You just got to start somewhere, and it can just be a 5 kilometer race. Um, Everything's relative, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, it makes me so excited because yeah, it's opened up a whole new world to me, and I just want to say it's available to everyone. Yeah, that's what I
Absolutely.
want
I
to
like
say.
that. I like that. So for those listening, go check out Janet on Instagram. She is there and she has some really cool content she puts out. And there'll always be an interesting journey to follow. Janet, thank you very much. And I look forward to chatting to you soon.
Thanks so much, Brendan, and for all your contribution in getting me to this point. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure.